Welcome to a Wayne 15 special presentation. Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana. Now here's your host, Wayne 15's Alyssa Ivinson.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Over the next hour, you'll hear veterans' voices from around Northeast Indiana and across our country. Stories of their service, their sacrifice, and how communities are also serving them. Our first story tonight takes us to Auburn, where an unassuming family heirloom ended up being a window into the family's history of service. Now it's one man's mission to fill it with military memorabilia passed down through generations.
It all started with the trunk. I mean, that's where it all began. So this is a picture. We believe this is the bunks from the CCC. And then you can see the foot lockers at the base of their beds. And we believe that's where the foot locker originated. It was all painted black, and little by little, it started wearing off, and I could see the OD green. And as I removed the color, the black, I found Marvin Gray. So when I was a child, my mom's uncle, Marvin, delivered the foot locker to me as a gift, wanted me to have it. What's important to me is the fact that the family members have brought me these items and wanted me to keep possession of them, and to share that with people is something that I enjoy doing. Uncle Marvin was in the infantry, but he was also a chef, a cook. And so we have recipes, and then that's Uncle Marvin's full dress uniform after the war. Not a lot of uniforms are this complete, with the pants, the shirt, the jacket, everything intact. So the one picture he has shows the Vaclavik train station, and then that corresponds with the actual travels of the 80th. These pillow shams were often purchased and sent back to family members. I have two from Uncle Marvin. That one's from my father. And then this one was my grandfather, Camp Walters, Texas. Lots of newspaper articles that were kept to add to the scrapbook that follow the war, the soldiers, specifically the Third Army. To have a collection of jewelry and pendants, that go back to Germany, hat pin, the coins, the swastika on a bracelet. One of my curiosities is a struck bullet that never fired. Why did he hang on to that? World War I Iron Cross. For Uncle Marvin to have been to cross the Rhine, the Ardennes, the Battle of the Bulge. These are things that we hear about in school, history books, but now to have somebody in the family that was actually there and survived, and then wanted me to have these items. It's very moving. And as I added, other family members came and gave me stuff. And before my father passed, he wanted me to put his stuff in the trunk. So the collection has just become so large, but I enjoy sharing it. And what greater way to share it than to put it on television and just share it to anybody that wants to watch it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
An amazing collection of history there. You can see a photo gallery of some of Michael's memorabilia in this story on the Veterans Voices page of Wayne.com. And we are just getting started tonight. Still to come, a Northeast Indiana veteran's idea to honor the fallen now has an international reach. But first, she served as a nurse in World War II, and now this Fort Wayne veteran is serving other veterans in our community. Her story after the break.
People have made enormous contributions in the service to our country, and it's just important that people recognize that and appreciate the things that veterans have done.
Well, I hadn't signed up because I thought I wasn't eligible, because all I had was active duty service. It was 6 months active duty and then 5.5 years in reserve. And reserve time I didn't think counted.
What did you think when you found out you were eligible?
Then I was able to go, and I said, great, let's go.
Thank you for watching tonight's Veterans Voices. I'm Adam Brower with Honor Flight Northeast Indiana. We want to talk to you tonight about the application process and whether or not you're worthy for your trip. But in short, if you wore the uniform, regardless of where or when, you are eligible for a trip to Washington, D.C. It's free to sign up and your day is free. I'm joined with Cynthia here. Cynthia is a member of our community that had to ask that same question of herself of, am I worthy? So Cynthia, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your service and tell us about how you navigated to Honor Flight's webpage to say, is this something that I should be signing up for?
I served from 1977 to 1979. I worked in accounting in the Air Force, and I did have to look through the application to see if I did qualify. And I noted a lot of the significant wars that we've had, and I served during peacetime. So I thought, well, maybe I don't qualify.
That's a very interesting distinction, right? So when Honor Flight first was founded, we were founded with the charter of taking World War II veterans specifically to Washington, D.C. But now we've opened that up to anyone that served. So I'm glad that you were able to put that application in. You're in the waiting list, you're going to be slotted in amongst those that served with you. You've been thinking to yourself, am I eligible? Now that you know you are, who else can you help to sign up?
Well, my husband is also a veteran. He does have medical issues, but I understand that they do take these into account.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to talk him into it.
That's a great point. So now that you're on the database, we'll be able to get your husband and you signed up together. We'll get you linked with guardians for the two of you, and you guys will be able to enjoy the day together. Doesn't that sound wonderful?
It does. It's quite an opportunity.
Well, thank you for taking the first step. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please visit our website at hfnei.org where you'll be able to apply for your trip to Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
It means that I survived, and it means a proud honor that for fighting for your freedom of your country. We're free here, but in the other places don't have the freedom that we have.
Now, back to Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana with your host, Wayne 15's Alyssa Ivinson.
From her service in the Army to her career as a nurse and professor, Agatha Turney's life is devoted to caring for others. Now, she's still serving other veterans in our community, one stitch at a time.
Yeah, I've always loved nursing.
Caring for others, Agatha Turney's passion and service.
We were encouraged at the school I went to join the Army, so we did.
Agatha spent 18 months in the Army during World War II, serving in Wisconsin and Georgia.
Camp McCoy, we took care of Japanese prisoners of war, which was not pleasant. At Lawson General, I was head nurse for 23 wards of amputees, all of them amputees, to get them one day off the battlefield and then see them with their prosthesis at the end. Mm-hmm. And there were different stages through the wards where they graduated like that. Yeah. They always came back to show me their prosthesis. I really enjoyed my time in the service. It wasn't the type of life that I would have continued, but I was needed and I went.
After her time in the Army, Agatha got her bachelor's in nursing, master's in psychiatric social work, and then taught nursing at Purdue, getting to pin her own daughter when she also became a nurse. The mom of 5 and grandma to 6 now still serves veterans, crocheting scarves for Clothes for Joes.
To help somebody else. Yeah. I mean, I'm not as active as I used to be. I'm still very active, but I can't do a lot of the things, but I can do that.
And veterans across the country are recognizing her, sending her birthday wishes as she's about to turn 100.
Opened my 151st birthday card from veterans. Being a veteran, you have a different feeling towards your country.
Agatha's 100th birthday is November 27th, but her big celebration party is tomorrow. And Agatha's scarves are donated to Clothes for Joe's. It's a nonprofit that provides veterans with essentials like clothes, shoes, and toiletries, all for free. Its new location at 2202 South Calhoun Street just opened. It's open Saturdays from 10 to 2. An Air Force nurse from Northeast Indiana recently traveled to D.C. with Honor Flight. Up next, a look at her years of service. And later in the show, the replica Vietnam Wall Memorial in Fort Wayne doesn't only honor the fallen, it's helping veterans find the closure they need. Stay with us.
It means freedom, basically, because all these guys fought different wars. Some of them fought the same wars, and that's what it's all about, freedom.
Hello, Olivia Coons with Honor Flight Northeast Indiana, and I am here today with Marilla Cushman. She is with WMSA. And Marilla, would you please tell us some more about yourself?
I'm a 25-year veteran of the United States Army. Quite proud of that. And today I am the senior advisor to the president of the Women in Military Service for America Memorial, i.e. the WMSA. And the Women's Memorial is a 33,000 square foot education center and memorial that speaks to the service and honors the service of military women beginning with the American Revolution. And you know, there are about 3 million of us who've served since the American Revolution and served proudly for this nation, all trailblazers, all legacy builders.
We are here today talking to Steve and Suzanne Eckhart about women's roles in the military. Suzanne, when did you serve and what branch did you serve?
I was in the Marine Corps in 1964, 65.
How long did you serve?
Almost 3 years.
Okay. What is one of your favorite memories from that time period?
Oh, well, there was probably a lot of them, but I think mostly meeting so many different other women in other, that lived other lifestyles besides the one. I came from a suburban, and I met women that had never lived, even had a bed, you know, so that was really what impacted me the most.
Okay, so Suzanne, I know earlier we were talking about women's roles in the militaries and how our female veterans are not really recognized like they should be by a lot of folks. Steve, can you tell us the comment that you made earlier about women's roles in the military and how people react?
I wear my military uniform, hat, jackets and stuff, and people will say, you know, thanks for serving, thanks Marine. And I say, oh, my wife was a veteran also, and they'll say, oh, and they'll change the subject completely. They will not recognize her as being a veteran. But they worked as hard as I did when I got back in the States. They deserve the same credit that we did. You know, VA benefits and everything. And so many of them don't take, this is a great day, and so many of them don't take the opportunity to participate in this.
Yes. Thank you for speaking with us today. Ladies, we want you on Honor Flights. You deserve to come to Washington, D.C. and have your day here with us. Please go to Honor Flight Northeast Indiana's website, hfnei.org, and put your application in today so that we can have you join us here along with your fellow male counterparts in Washington, D.C. This is for you just as much as anyone else. You served our country and we would like you here. Thank you and have a great day.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
I'm very proud that I did serve. There's not many women who do, but it was an experience, and I'm just proud that I was able to do it.
Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana continues with your host, Alyssa Ivinson.
5 women on Honor Flight Northeast Indiana's 40th trip got special recognition in D.C. One of them spent her service as a nurse on the battlefield. Taylor King has her story.
Carol Scher has served in many different states and countries. She returned to Washington, D.C. for a special trip. Take a look.
The thing that I most look forward to on this whole trip.
Carol Scher returned to Washington, D.C. last month, this time with Honor Flight Northeast Indiana. 25 years ago, Carol, along with her mother and a close family friend, attended the dedication of the Military Women's Memorial.
It was very heartwarming to know that they finally were recognizing women and the contributions that they made to the military. since the beginning of our country.
Carol was a nurse for 9 years when she joined the Air Force Reserve at Grissom Air Force Base in 1978. Here is one photo of Carol when she traveled for a 2-week training duty, loading baggage on and off a KC-135 refueler. This is her in a chemical suit at a wartime medical training in Wisconsin. She was treating chemically contaminated patients. During Carol's honor flight trip, she was recognized by the Military Women's Memorial for her time in the Air Force.
The presentation was very special, but to be able to see this and how it's changed and improved in 25 years is just amazing.
Over 3 million women have served in the military, but only 10% of them have their stories registered at the memorial. Carol spent her last 3 years in the reserve working in an ER and retired in 2006 after 28 years. When people visit the Military Women's Memorial, this is what she wants people to remember.
To be able to see all of the contributions that women have made over the years to the military. Because so many times it's only the men that are recognized and the women are in the background, and this brings women and their contributions to the foreground.
Carol also volunteered in hospitals in Bloomington and California, and as far away as Uganda and St. Lucia. For Veterans Voices, I'm Taylor King.
Coming up on Veterans Voices, see how one veteran is working to help others overcome trauma. And up next, the story of a Northeast Indiana veteran honoring people gone too soon, one flag at a time. We'll be right back.
It should mean to those that surround us and others what we fought for this country. Because I've had people tell me that they never went into the military. They say it doesn't mean nothing to them. But when you take an oath to defend your country against domestic and foreign people, it really means something.
When Honor Flight Northeast Indiana was first founded nearly 14 years ago, we wouldn't have imagined that we could have completed 40 trips now to Washington, D.C. We had a veteran that was on the beaches of Normandy. We had another veteran that saw the flag raising at Mount Suribachi, and the captain of the very last fighter mission in World War II. But nothing makes us more exciting than these stories of a husband and wife veteran that were able to go to Washington together. Here's their stories.
Okay, I served in, I'm not good with dates, 65.
I enlisted in 65. I went to schooling and part-time down in Florida. Then I moved up to Memphis where I met my wife. I was in training for electronics technician.
And Dixie?
I checked the officers in and off of base.
So now how long have you all been married now?
56 years.
50, so well, congratulations there.
Thank you.
So now a little bit of back history. You have been signed up for your honor flight.
Yes.
But Dixie was not.
No.
Dixie, why was that?
Well, I didn't know women could go on it. I thought it was just a man's thing, the serviceman's thing, and I really didn't know about it until we were on vacation when we found out he was going to be on this honor flight, and they called my daughter, and she said, well, you know, my mom was also in the service, and that got the ball rolling for me.
We have Shedrick and Mary Alice. How are you doing, Shedrick?
I'm doing fine, real good.
So tell us a little bit about how you two met.
We was in the same company for a minute, 363rd, what's it? Transportation. 363rd Transportation, and we met in Fort Dix, New Jersey. It was 4 or 5 of us, and she was the only girl. She was my girl. You go on and pick up Hurley? No, I might go pick up Hurley.
There was 2 females in the entire company. I was in transportation and the other woman was the clerk in the office, and everything else in that vicinity was male. So everybody kept telling me, you know, if you ever go out on dates, you need to stay away from Lee. He's a womanizer. You got to stay away from him. And I said, really? He's that interesting that all the women go to him? I got to find out why, you know. Turns out he's a pretty good guy.
And how long have you all been married together now?
49 years.
49 years. What would you want to tell another spouse of a veteran who either might be on the list or haven't signed up yet about signing up?
I would tell them, if you get your wife, and if you haven't signed up yet, have her sign up when you sign up, or if you have already signed up, have her call and get signed up, because it's a trip of a lifetime. I'm sure a lot of the women don't realize that it is for the women veterans also. I mean, when you think of a veteran, 9 times out of 10 you only think of a man veteran. You don't think of the women who have served.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
It means a lot to me to serve my country. I was happy to serve my country.
Now, back to Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana with your host, Wayne 15's Alyssa Ivinson.
Running with a flag to honor the fallen. What started as a spur-of-the-moment idea is now Flags for Fallen, an organization touching hundreds of families across 42 states and 3 countries. The Portland, Indiana veteran behind it started it all in Fort Wayne.
I just want the family to look at this and say, we did everything we could, because anything worth doing is worth doing with excellence. That was on a plaque somewhere at Fort Bragg. I've never forgotten.
Richard Clark still lives out the lessons learned long ago in the Army. He served in the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg.
I was infantry, so I was a machine gunner for a while and a squad leader.
And a paratrooper, completing 54 jumps.
I'm afraid of heights, so that was a really big deal.
Clark is also a runner. In 2012, he signed up for the Fort for Fitness Half Marathon in Fort Wayne.
I decided the night before to buy a flag, wrapped it up, and I put a black towel around it to signify mourning. I thought that was what I should do, because I was thinking Iraq and Afghanistan.
In the final stretch, he ran through Parkview Field and across the finish line with the flag flying high above his head.
I had no idea what to do when I got finished. And so I went up in the crowd, and there was a lady that I'd never met before, and I gave her the flag, and her son was a KIA from Iraq. And so I started doing that at all my races. I would just pick a stranger and give it to him, and it felt great, but it kind of felt hollow, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then it just dawned on me one day to reach out to a family and carry the flag for that family member. Next thing you know, I had other runners want to get involved.
510 flags, 42 states, and 3 countries later, Flags for Fallen is giving families a new memory of their lost loved one.
It feels so good. It feels like just like she's here.
In this year's Fort for Fitness, Richard carried a flag for Madison Clark. She was 20 years old when she died in 2016.
Absolute beautiful soul.
Flags for Fallen carries flags for anyone gone too soon.
The flag is for everybody. It represents unity. So we offer this for everybody.
17 runners carried flags to honor 21 people in this year's races, each one with a folding ceremony and often a presentation to family just past the finish line.
He was something special. We miss him.
16-year-old Drake Giger died during football practice in Omaha, Nebraska. His mom and sister made the drive to Fort Wayne to accept his flag.
We're going to hold on to this memory forever, so we're really thankful.
We'd like to present you this flag so you know Uncle Lou is never forgotten.
Family can't always be at the race to receive the flag, like for fallen Richmond police officer Sierra Burton, and the flag carried by 11-year-old Lillian Hines.
I carried a flag for Kaios Kelly. He was the first nurse to die from COVID. He lived in New York and didn't get to say goodbye to any of his family, which was really sad. We just have to carry it for them. We're trying to do our best to honor the people we can.
It's just riveting. It's so powerful. It means so much to see all this compassion in one area.
The flag for Maddie now sits on her mom's mantle, and her aunt plans to pay it forward.
I'm going to carry a flag next year.
I just want one person to feel what I felt, what she felt. Goosebumps, just, there's no words to describe it.
And you feel it, you see it in their eyes. When you hug them, they're trembling, but you know it's a good tremble, and there's tears, but it's, they've had so much pain. And now they have some joy. Maybe it's for a day, but they're going to have that flag. They're going to have the pictures. They can look at it anytime they want and bring themselves right back to this moment. We're trying to give one of our days of our life and dedicate it to them, so their memories just never die.
Never forget this.
And you can see how you can get involved with Flags for Fallen in this story on the Veterans Voices page of WANE.com. Making sure the men and women serving overseas don't feel forgotten. Up next, we'll take you into the Packs for Patriots operation, filling boxes with love, support, and holiday cheer. And later in the show, how one Fort Wayne veteran is encouraging others to get help paying medical issues caused by their service. We'll be right back.
I was in Coochie, Vietnam, in 25th Infantry. But I made it back, by the grace of God, I made it back. There was some of my good brothers didn't make it back. Veterans that need help. Remember those guys that need help.
One of the most frequent questions that we get from veterans when they're thinking about their honor flight is, why do they need a guardian to be assigned to them? The way the honor flight program works is that every veteran that goes on a trip has a guardian that's there to assist throughout the day. Now, as the veteran community gets a little bit younger, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm an able-bodied veteran. Why do I need a guardian assigned to me? But it's not just for those veterans that maybe don't need a wheelchair pushed. It's not necessarily for the veterans that need help for their medicine. It's that one-on-one, that TLC approach that Honor Flight really wants to instill in the day that gives that veteran that wonderful experience. So maybe it's a veteran that has a memory failing issue and the guardian is there to help. Maybe it's just an arm to lean on throughout the day. But more importantly, it's that personal experience that we want to make sure the veteran remembers how wonderful their day was and that it was meant special just for them.
So I think the Guardian program's a fantastic one to accompany the veterans out there. There's some veterans that need a little bit of assistance to get around. I think primarily the thing I got most out of it was to be there with someone so that they weren't feeling alone, that they could share in the experiences, and it was personal to me because it was my dad that I was accompanying, and just to be able to share those memories and talk about his experiences was really beneficial and something I'll always remember.
I think even if they can walk even by themselves, I think just having somebody by your side, somebody with you through the whole journey. Maybe you didn't hear the directions, maybe you just need to know what time it is. Get your lunch, make sure they're off the bus first, get them water. But it's just as much, I don't know, I just think it's cool to be together. It's like, I think to have one by themselves, it's like, I don't think they'd experience it the same way they would by having somebody with them.
So now you're thinking, I want to be a guardian. How do I get involved? Your best way is to get linked with a veteran that you already know. They're your personal tie. If you're not linked with someone directly, it's then finding a way to still give back and have that veteran enjoy their day. That's what we want to give each Honor Flight veteran. Now, enjoy the rest of the show.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
I'm proud of my service. I have a Purple Heart. I was in the Northern I Corps of Vietnam, and I'm proud of the service that I had over there. And I'm glad I made it back. They should honor the veterans because it gives them the opportunity to enjoy the freedoms that they have today. Otherwise, who knows how it would end up.
Now, back to Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana with your host, WANE 15's Alyssa Ivinson.
The holiday season can be hard for those serving away from home, but a nonprofit in North Carolina is sending holiday cheer one box at a time. Ken Watlington has the story.
On the outside, it looks like your basic strip mall. But there's plenty of hustle and bustle inside one of the units. This is where the magic happens for Ayden, North Carolina-based NC Packs for Patriots.
We call this the southern branch of the North Pole.
That's because they're packing with a purpose.
We are preparing Christmas for troops who are away from their families and friends and homes for Christmas. So we try to send a little touch and taste of the holidays to our troops who are serving away.
Barbara Whitehead started NC Packs for Patriots back in 2004.
People don't realize you're standing within a 2-hour drive of the largest bases for all 5 branches of the military.
The nonprofit first collects donations from businesses, churches, and individuals from across eastern North Carolina. Then volunteers pack those donations to send to service members around the world.
From the times that I've been overseas myself, to have these care packages come in, it makes it a little bit easier to be away from family, especially during the holidays.
And what makes NC Packs for Patriots even more remarkable is that everything you see in this facility is donated, and that includes what goes into the care packages, like the toiletries or maybe some snacks for the troops. But the most important donation is monetary. They need money to pay for the postage to send out these care packages.
Our Christmas packages alone probably will be about $8,000, and that's just a 1 month, 4-week period.
And people are donating their time too. Volunteers like Judy Dobler.
Even a small group of 2 people make a difference. We've been coming to NC Packs to help for about the last 8 years.
Besides supporting the troops, there's another reason Judy says she keeps coming back, and that's Barbara.
She's just one of a kind. We said she should write a book with what she's been doing because it's so meaningful to so many people.
Still making a difference nearly 2 decades later.
Just thank you so much.
The mission continues, so it's not just about Christmas in here, because we have troops who are deploying, and they're always in my heart.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Ken Watlington in Ayden, North Carolina.
Still to come on Veterans Voices, we go to the Vietnam Memorial in Fort Wayne and Washington, D.C. And up next, an Air Force veteran became a therapist to help herself and others cope with trauma. We'll show you a new therapy she developed. Stay with us.
People should honor their veterans. And after Vietnam, not so much so, but after Desert Storm, I usually wear some sort of veteran apparel. And so people come up and thank me for my service. My wife is also a retired Army, and so we really appreciate them make the effort to thank us. It goes to the heart, it really does. We can't hear it often enough.
Adam Brower here with Honor Flight Northeast Indiana. We are on flight number 39 in Washington, D.C., right here at the Vietnam Wall. So, November 11th, Veterans Day, that's when this program's going to air. Tell us about way back in June, some number of years ago, 1966, when you were sent to be stationed in Vietnam. Tell us a little bit about how you got deployed there, and then what happened that November on Veterans Day.
Well, I got deployed there. I was in transportation, and I got sent over there to work on small fixed-wing aircraft. And what happened on November 11th was him and his brother was born 11/11/66. All doubles, twins.
Right.
Okay? And we always thought that was kind of unique. So that's her. And naturally being a twin, he was probably a month or more premature. That ended up being his birthday, so that was great.
So November 11th, 1966, Roger, you were in Vietnam when you got the news that Doug and his twin brother were born.
Right.
So Doug, how old were you when that dad finally came home and you finally got to meet him then?
From what we've been told, my brother Dean and I were 8 months old when Dad got back into the country, and we always joked with him as we got older that when we were very surprised that he actually didn't re-up for another tour of duty versus taking care of 2 little screaming 8-month-old kids.
So that's what's special about Honor Flight Days. We see little fun things like these that come up that we want to be able to highlight with you on this Veterans Voices program. If you could speak to any of the veterans watching tonight, trying to encourage them to sign up for their free honor flight, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them absolutely do it as soon as they can and get here. It's a great time, and it's great to be with your fellow servicemen.
Doug, thank you for being with us today. Thanks for taking care of your dad. Roger, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
For those of you watching out there, thank you very much for tuning in tonight to Veterans Voices. If you have any questions for Honor Flight or would like to apply for your free trip to Washington, D.C., visit our website at hfnei.org. We hope you enjoy the rest of tonight's program.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
Everything, it really does. Of the generations before us that gave everything there was so that we have the freedom that we can enjoy. We lose a lot of our patriotism in the last few years, and I think that we need to get the younger generations more patriotic, understanding what was done for their freedom.
Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana continues with your host, Alyssa Ivinson.
A veteran's service often doesn't stop when they leave the military. As Maria Elena Balora shows us, one Air Force veteran is helping fellow veterans through some of the most traumatic events of their lives.
When you're sitting in the emotions all day, every day, how do you function? You can't, not effectively.
That was the lesson about trauma Dr. Janelle Royster learned while serving in the Air Force.
One of the things I was struggling with was shame and guilt from my best friend's suicide. She was a veteran, and I wasn't allowed to go to her funeral because I had to be back to my permanent duty station because I was still active duty Air Force.
She saw many doctors who diagnosed her with complex PTSD and gave her a variety of medications. They didn't work, and she realized something had to change.
I figured, doctor, heal thyself, right? Go back to school, get your master's in mental health counseling.
She's now developed a new way to process trauma called the Trauma Recovery Intervention Protocol, or TRIP.
So what we do is we go before the trauma ever happened. What were you doing where you were safe before this event happened? What were you doing when you were safe after?
Unlike many traditional forms of therapy, TRIP doesn't ask veterans to revisit every single traumatic event they've ever experienced.
It wasn't doing anything for me to have to relive those events over and over, because to me it was keeping me in a state of trauma.
And that change made all the difference for Michael Murray, who's a retired Marine infantry officer and was medevaced out of Afghanistan in 2012.
After about an hour and a half I spent with Dr. Royster, so many things changed.
Murray founded a nonprofit, Liberty OVE, to help veterans and first responders. And now he and Royster are working together to spread TRIP across the country.
A traumatic event happens within seconds. Why can't you solve the problem within minutes?
Their mission is to help people cope with trauma and lower the veteran suicide rate through talking and training. If you need help coping with trauma, or if you want to sponsor training for other veterans to go through the protocol, visit libertyove.com. In Norfolk, I'm Maria Elena Balores.
The PACT Act is helping veterans get the medical care they need. It links 23 different illnesses and cancers to toxic exposure, including Agent Orange. Fort Wayne Vietnam veteran Michael Shaley says his Agent Orange exposure caused his high blood pressure. The Allen County Department of Veterans Affairs Service Officer Joe Wasson helped him get compensation under the law.
Make an appointment with him, sit down, go over your entire military service record. You might be surprised what you've forgotten. And he will take you by the hand and show you what to do from then on. And basically, he does all the real hard lifting. You just have to do a few things, and you're all set. But number one, register with the VA.
See how to schedule an appointment on Wayne.com. One veteran finds a new mission to serve our country with a special partner. That story coming up on Veterans Voices. But first, from Washington, D.C. to Fort Wayne, we visit the Vietnam Memorial Wall through the eyes of veterans.
I went in 53 and got out in 56. Was in Korea at 18 years old. So yeah, it was a growing up experience. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's, it means more to me now than it did when I got out.
We had a special occasion today on Honor Flight number 40 while we were in Washington, D.C. Some of our veterans that were there had an opportunity to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. So if I could bring in the Diebolt family, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing with me a little bit, but what was your initial reaction when you heard that you'd have an opportunity to lay a wreath there at the Tomb of the Unknowns?
Dennis Covert called me and explained it to me. And all the time I was talking with him, the shackles, my hair, I just got goosebumps all over. It was shocking, really.
When I found out, I guess from Dad or Mom, I can't remember now, I was just like, wow. I mean, it's already an honor just to be able to come and be on the flight with him, but then to be told that I get to lay like the wreath, yeah, It was amazing. It was amazing to be chosen, and then to actually participate in today. It was awesome. Very solemn, very humbling.
Alita is a longtime volunteer for Honor Flight who is now on the board of directors, but Alita also takes it upon herself to do something really, really special on some of these trips that we go to Washington, where we're able to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery. So Alita, if you wouldn't mind, walk us through briefly when you first find out that we're going to be able to lay a wreath. What goes through your mind and how you want to put the TLC into making one of those beautiful wreaths that we get to lay?
I get very emotional because my dad was a World War II veteran. I think of him every time I lay a wreath and every trip that I go on. And I want to give back to the veterans that are living now and the ones that did not come back. And to me, that is what these wreaths are all about. I know it's for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but to me, it just, it blesses me to be able to give back to the veterans.
For those watching, to you, thank you so much. Thank you for all your hard work, not only for our veterans, but being able to honor those here, those in Washington, those watching at home tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana continues with your host, Alyssa Ivinson.
We get more recognition now than we did when we came home. And it just makes us feel a lot better than when we came home.
A special event at the Veterans National Memorial Shrine in Fort Wayne last month welcomed Indiana Vietnam veterans home. Fort Wayne's Vietnam Memorial Wall is truly a sight to see. Wayne 15's Emily Dwyer met two veterans there who say the wall is a special place where people can honor and remember our fallen heroes, and in some cases, find the closure they've been searching for decades.
If you'll look at the names on the wall that we're standing next to, that's who it's all about. My day is Veterans Day, but my fallen brothers and sisters, it is Memorial Day, and it's all about them. It isn't about picnics, it's not about having a family outing, it's not a sale at a store. It's about the fallen heroes and the women and men who sacrificed the ultimate way their lives. Just like Christ did for our sins, the veteran does for our freedom.
There's 79 veterans from Fort Wayne on this wall. There's 1,500 from Indiana. Carl Kleino, he's on panel 28 West. When I was in Vietnam, they sent me up to where he was killed, and I took his position. When we go and visit Steve Himes or Carl Kleino or Ronnie Colon, that hits home because we know those guys. And we sit here and enjoy the freedom today of being able to come to the wall, but when you think about what their sacrifice was and how their families are suffering today, still after 50 years, it just does our heart good to come out here and visit the wall and see their names and be able to talk to them.
There are emotions when I'm glad I'm here. There are emotions when I wish they were here, but in spirit they are. And it feels good to walk up to touch the name of your close friends and be able to just close those feelings that you've had most of your life when they lost their lives.
The feeling you get when you're out here, it's quiet, it's reflective, it's a solemn, but yet it gives you a good feeling of closure.
It gives us a place to come and reflect. It gives us a chance to sit down and give that love and honor that they deserve.
That was Emily Dwyer reporting. 6 granite benches were recently added to the grounds, giving people a place to sit and reflect. All are donated by different organizations that honor veterans. Wayne 15 went along on the Honor Flight Northeast Indiana trip in October, and when Army veteran Shedrick Lee went to the Vietnam Wall, he was looking for one name in particular.
Henry North Lee Jr. He's a cousin. You kind of get choked up a bit, and you think for a minute that it's a sober moment right there. Just all those people that sacrificed. A lot of people done sacrificed already, way before you even got to my cousin. There was a lot of people that sacrificed. But you get shivers when you come up on the wall like that.
The Vietnam Memorial Wall chronologically lists the names of 58,318 Americans who gave their lives in that war. Still to come, a National Veteran Memorial in California is expanding. See how it's keeping the legacy of thousands alive. And up next, Capitol K-9, how a veteran and his companion are keeping our national lawmakers safe.
Everybody thanks me for my service, so it makes me feel good. It means a lot, because we get free meals and a lot of different things free. And the stand down's the best.
Welcome back. Honor Flight Northeast Indiana normally takes 4 trips to Washington, D.C. each year. But because of the pandemic pause, we took 6 trips to Washington, D.C. Many of the veterans on their trip this year have had to wait several years. But we had a chance to catch up with a few of them who have been on the list since 2016 to ask them about that wait. Here's what they had to say.
Okay, my name is Vic Isaacson, and I was a U.S. Army, and I served in Vietnam between 1967 and 1969. I was in the engineers. Well, I'd heard about the honor flights, and I thought it'd be a good experience. And I put my application in 2016, about the middle of the year. So I've been on the list for 6 years. And, well, I knew it was going to be a long wait because I knew that there was veterans that are, they go by the war they were in. And I knew Vietnam was going to wait for quite a while. It didn't bother me to wait.
Gerald Williams, United States Navy, Medical Corps, United States Marine Corps, Fleet Marine Force. I was excited because I've been waiting over 2 years on it.
A lot of you have.
Right. And I'm glad they finally caught up with it. This has been the most exciting day of my life in a long time.
Awesome. What was it like when you got the call that it was your time to finally go on your trip?
Oh, I was waiting. I'd been waiting for 2 years, because of the virus thing. So, yeah, I was thrilled. I'm glad they did it.
Ronald D. Crew. I served in the United States Navy from 1957 to 1961. Well, I've been canceled 3 times. Finally, they said, you're going to go, so me and him, we got together and here we are.
What was that like, getting ready 2 years ago before COVID to go and then being told, sorry, but we got to hold off?
Well, we were ready to come then, and it sort of hurt a little bit because we didn't want to come. The veterans ought to be thankful for what we've seen today. If you don't go, you're losing a lot of memories. You better go, sir. It's an honor to be here. I'm 83, and I get around fairly well, but some of them, they're struggling a little bit. I'm glad they got to come, because they deserve it.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana continues with your host, Alyssa Ivinson.
A U.S. Marine Corps veteran now patrols our nation's capital with a special 4-legged partner. Anna Warnicki has a story from Washington.
He is my partner. His name is Lord.
Former U.S. Marine Sean Haynes joined the Capitol Police Force 33 years ago. Lord is his 5th 4-legged partner.
My 3rd dog, his name was Hawk. He was a Dutch Shepherd. He was single-purpose, explosive detection. My 4th dog was a black Labrador Retriever named Will, single-purpose. And now I have Lord.
Haynes teamed up with Lord in 2018. They are one of 56 K-9 crews that patrol and protect the grounds of the U.S. Capitol and the lawmakers inside.
The K-9 unit is a select team within the U.S. Capitol Police Department. Each dog is paired with a technician, and together they go through an extensive training program before they report here to the Capitol.
It's the best job on the department.
Haynes is one of the longest serving technicians in the K-9 unit, a role he says the Marines prepared him for.
I'm very disciplined. I'm never late for work. I'm always an hour early, every day since I've been here.
In 2019, Haynes and his partner were honored by the department for finding and catching a suspect accused of killing a 15-year-old boy. But his most unforgettable moment as an officer happened 21 years ago. On September 11th, Haynes and his partner Fanto were on duty when 3 hijacked planes crashed into the Twin Towers and Pentagon.
A couple of K-9 teams were sent out to the Pentagon to provide explosive detection capabilities during the recovery effort at the Pentagon. So I get a little teared up about this sometimes, because I saw a lot. So. Yeah.
Haynes says he's not sure when he will retire, but he knows that when he does, Lord will retire too. For Veterans Voices, I'm Anna Warnicki.
Up next, it honors thousands of servicemen and women from every branch and every war. See how this national memorial is making room for even more when we come back.
At least one day, stop and remember the people that sacrificed everything. My dad was a career soldier. My grandfather was a soldier. To remember this is why we have the ability to go where we want to, when we want to, and pretty much do what we want to.
As we finish our 40th flight here in Washington, D.C., Honor Flight Northeast Indiana has now taken over 3,000 veterans from Fort Wayne on their honor flight. We can't thank the community enough, whether you've donated $1 or $125,000 to fund an entire flight. It's because of you this day is possible for these veterans. We can't thank you enough. And as we end tonight's show, don't take just my word for it. Take the words of these men and women.
My name is Percival Moore, United States Army. I'd like to thank those who went out of their way to see that we are able to come to see or bring up some remembrance.
I want to thank them. I want to thank everybody that's done this, the volunteers, the people that organize. It is well organized, and I want to thank them all.
I would like to thank everyone who made it possible for me to be on this honor flight. Thank you so much. I appreciate you making it possible.
I'm Ronald Lowe, served in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, and these people put this together and donate all their money and time. Greatest people ever.
My name is Richard Lessig. I was in the United States Army for this Korean conflict. I want to thank everybody that put this program on. We never knew it it's going to happen, but it did. Well, thank you and everybody.
My name is Nathan Alexander, and I'd like to thank the people for the honor flight, for what they have done for all us veterans.
Robert Denny from Fort Wayne, Indiana, U.S. Marine Corps. I want to say thank you to all the people involved in the honor flight. It was a wonderful thing that you folks put together, I think, back in 2004. I could see the love and compassion that went into making this program work, the enormous amount of volunteers that it takes to do this. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you.
Honor Flight Northeast Indiana would like to thank Tony Murray, Three Rivers Federal Credit Union, Custom Engineering and Fabrication, and all of our sponsors for making tonight's show possible.
Now, back to Veterans Voices of Northeast Indiana with your host, Wayne 15's Alyssa Ivinson.
We end tonight with efforts to never let our veterans be forgotten. Kathleen Bades shows us how the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial in San Diego is expanding its legacy.
Perched on one of San Diego's most scenic vantage points lies the Mount Soledad National Veterans Memorial, a memorial unlike any other.
These walls with pictures of husbands and wives or brothers or service members,
There is no other memorial in the country that does this.
More than 5,000 black granite plaques line the walls, each one sharing a unique story of courage and sacrifice.
Every rank from every service, from the Revolutionary War to the present day. And there is no special wall set aside for rank or service or any point in time in history.
Service is the centerpiece of the memorial. Anyone, no matter where they're from, who was honorably discharged can have a plaque here. And it's that all-embracing mosaic of service that's now growing even larger. The memorial is building more walls to honor and preserve the legacies of thousands more service members.
5 new walls, which will provide us 2,000 more plaque spaces.
A part of that expansion is building on their existing website, soledadmemorial.org, and creating an app where people can find the face they're looking for and the story behind their sacrifice from anywhere in the world. But if you do step foot here, you're in good hands.
We're supported by a team of 24 docents who take a watch up here and engage with the public, keep the memorial clean, and tell the stories of these veterans that are on these walls.
They have a syllabus to study the remarkable military history remembered here, like Major Megan McClung, the first female Marine Corps officer killed in Iraq.
I often actually imagine her talking to me, to us, to our group, and I can hear her voice even to this day.
Combat photojournalist Amy Forsyth served alongside Megan, even training with her at Camp Pendleton before deployment.
As the first female Marine officer to be killed in Iraq, that was significant, and it got people's attention.
The Mount Soledad Memorial doing its part to keep Megan's memory alive, dedicating their Memorial Day ceremony to her this past May.
Well, I can't thank the organization enough for making her the centerpiece, and especially being a woman and honoring that sacrifice, because oftentimes those heroes, those combat infantry, Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, they're the ones with the glory, but oftentimes it's the people in the background who also risked everything.
Megan is remembered as an all-American girl who made the ultimate sacrifice, like so many of the heroes honored alongside her.
Her mantra was be bold, be brief, be gone, and that's the way she lived her life.
A life, along with the thousands honored here, worthy of such heights, standing tall for eternity, from dusk until dawn.
Thank you for joining us as we honor those who serve. You can see these stories and more on the Veterans Voices page of WANE.com. From all of us at WANE 15, thank you to all of our veterans for your service and sacrifice. Good night.